Hello, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. Today, we're diving into something truly powerful, a deep exploration of how to choose the right niche, craft engaging long-form content, and apply the strategies that help your YouTube channel grow with clarity, purpose, and momentum. We'll break down the mindset, the storytelling framework, and the practical steps you can use to stand out and build a loyal audience. If you find this video valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of my upcoming content. That morning began like any other day, yet it was unlike any day before. The dawn crept timidly from the river, its pale golden light slipping through the gaps in the thatched roof, brightening the small kitchen, yet carrying a hazy, foreboding feeling. In that kitchen, Huyen was bent over, picking vegetables. Her hands moved nimbly, as skilled as ever over the years. But her eyes were no longer here. They drifted somewhere far away, as if trying to peer through the morning to touch what awaited at the end of the day. Outside in the yard, Maya was running around the chicken coop. Her voice rang out, clear and melodic, drowning out even the early rooster's crow. She called each chicken by name, singing nonsense songs in that carefree way only children have. At the back of the yard, Dee was quietly chopping banana trunks. His machete struck the tree in a steady, decisive rhythm. Sweat beaded on his forehead. But each time Maya's singing reached him, the corner of his mouth lifted, ever so slightly, yet enough to show that amid all the burdens and tangled emotions, he still had a corner of peace. The morning breeze swept through the yard, making the fresh grass smell sharper, the damp earth richer. When Huyen looked up at the sunlit yard, her heart suddenly grew heavy. Today was the last day Day would carry the title of another woman's husband. A day she had waited for so long, yet feared to touch. She meant to say something to him, but only set down the basket of vegetables and called Maya in to wash her hands. In that simple space, every sound blended into a fragile family music. The running water, the clucking chickens, the steady thud of the machete. Day looked up and met Huyen's gaze. No words were spoken. Just a fleeting moment, but enough for both to understand today could change their lives forever. Maya dashed past, her little feet bouncing as if running between two worlds. The innocent one she lived in, and the stormy one raging in the adults' hearts, of which she knew nothing. That morning's breakfast carried the fragrant scent of fried pumpkin cakes, rising from the old pan on the stove. The three sat around the small tray, the oil lamp flickering on the wall, flickering softly. Maya picked up a piece, scrunching her nose when she bit into the pumpkin. Huyen laughed gently, picking out a piece without pumpkin for her daughter, her voice tender, yet tinged with something held back. Dee watched the two, his chest tight as if squeezed by an invisible hand. Today, he would officially sever ties with the past, with the entanglements, the wounds, and the years he had tried to hold on to, but ultimately had to let go. Huyen set down her chopsticks and looked up. "Will everything be all right?" she asked softly, her words carrying an ocean of worry. Beneath the tray, Dee gently took her hand and squeezed it. His voice was low, his words a vow. "After today, I only have you and Maya." Huyen smiled, though her eyes glistened. Outside, the wind began to pick up. Banana leaves rustled loudly, as if signaling something about to burst. Before leaving, Huyen said, "Go alone. Don't let Thuy see me. Let the past end on its own." Dee nodded. He bent down, kissing Maya's hair lightly, a kiss filled with the longing he knew would return every day. Then he looked into Huyen's eyes, the look of a man standing at the threshold of freedom, a freedom laced with pain but necessary, and of a woman he had loved longer than he had even realized. The motorbike roared in the alley. Maya waved enthusiastically. Huyen stood on the porch, clutching her shirt tightly, silently praying that the court would close an old life and open a new one. After dropping Maya at school, Dee went straight to the courthouse. Huyen returned to the house, stroked Bibi once, then quietly wrapped a scarf around her head, grabbed a basket, and headed into the forest to pick wild pineapples. She needed to keep her hands busy, her mind from wandering, her heart from galloping like a wild horse. The forest path was steep, sunlight piercing through the canopy in streaks, illuminating her anxious face. Each step brought a question. How is the trial going? Will Thuy make things difficult for him? Huyen picked pineapples while murmuring the names and uses of medicinal herbs, a way to stay calm. Sweat soaked her shirt, but her heart burned hotter. In the distance, dark clouds began to gather. She stopped on a rocky outcrop, looking down at the shimmering river. Her throat tightened. So many years of waiting, seemingly endless, now reduced to this one day. She whispered, as if to the mountains and forest, "Let it all end today. Please?" Only the wind answered. The courthouse gate stood still under the scorching sun. Doe stepped into the yard, his heart both light and heavy. Thuy was already waiting, her eyes red and swollen. The verdict was read. Land divided into 3 parts. Day receiving 2, Thuy 1. Making the air thick with tension, Thuy rushed toward him, her voice full of rage. "Why do you get 2 parts?" Day remained calm, his voice cold but clear. The court ruled according to the law. She grabbed his shirt, tears streaming. If I want to try again, would you agree?" Time seemed to freeze. Day looked straight at the woman who was once his wife, his voice low but firm. "My heart now belongs only to Huyen." A short sentence, but enough to sever the final thread binding them. Thuy walked away, staggering on the hot brick courtyard. "You'll never be happy," she shouted back, her voice hoarse. Day didn't respond. He stood there, holding the freshly inked divorce papers. The wind blew, making the paper flutter lightly, like a bird set free. He watched Thuy's figure disappear, feeling no lingering attachment. Only the image of Huyen at home and Maya waiting to be picked up after school remained. The papers burned in his hand like a flame that had burned away the past and now warmed the future. He stepped out of the gate, sunlight slanting through the trees, surrounding him with a pure, liberating glow. Dee left the courthouse with steps lighter than ever. Everything seemed to fall from his shoulders decisively. The months of arguments, the long, dark nights, the attempts to save a marriage long dead, all of it now reduced to the thin divorce papers in his hand, thin yet heavy with a lifetime. He rode through the familiar slope, past the lone red cotton tree by the roadside. Late morning sunlight glinted off his motorbike mirrors. The wind hit his face, but it wasn't cold. It felt like life's pat on the back. "Go on, you deserve a new beginning." On the way, he kept glancing at his watch. Though the trial ended earlier than expected, he still felt restless. For some reason, all he could think of was Huyen standing by the stove that morning, her hands trembling slightly as she tied her hair. He wanted to get home fast, to see her, to tell her it was officially over. That from now on, he owed no one anything, except her and Maya. As he turned into the alley, he saw Maya running toward him from afar, her hair flying wildly, She shouted, "Daddy Day is back! Daddy Day is back!" That call rang like a bell, opening the gate to a new future. Dee stopped the bike, opening his arms. Maya hugged him tightly, her breath smelling of milk candy. He lifted her, spun her around, and laughed loudly. A laugh he hadn't had in so long. A laugh with no pretense, no hidden pain. Maya chattered, "Where did you go, Daddy? You were gone forever." Dee pinched her nose lightly. "Daddy went to sign some papers. From now on, I get to stay with you and Mommy forever." She paused, then grinned, her eyes curving into crescent moons. Inside, Huyen was washing the wild greens she had picked. Hearing Maya's shout, her heart skipped a beat. She set the basket down, wiped her hands on her apron, and stepped onto the porch. The first thing she saw was Maya clinging to Day like a little monkey, while Day looked down at her with eyes so warm they could melt winter. Huyen froze, her eyes stinging. She didn't cry, but her heart melted. Day looked up, meeting her gaze. He nodded slightly and raised the papers in his hand. No more words were needed. Huyen walked over, looking at the words, "Decision, recognition of consensual divorce." Her hand trembled faintly. A long journey, a verdict, a cut, a liberation. "Is it done?" she asked softly. The answer gently, "Yes, it's all done." Just 2 sentences, but enough for the old world to collapse and a new one to rise. That noon, the 3 ate amid laughter. Maya recounted school stories, while Day listened and served food to his 2 girls. Occasionally, he looked at Huyen, his eyes filled with gratitude and trust. In his heart, the void left by his old marriage was being filled with the peace of this home, of these 2 girls, a peace he once thought he didn't deserve. When Maya napped, Huyen went to the backyard to dry the wild pineapples. Dee followed, standing beside her under the old mango tree. The wind carried the tangy scent of the small golden fruits. They stood side by side in silence. But the silence wasn't awkward. It was an acknowledgement that from now on, they were truly walking the same path. Huyen asked softly, "Are you scared?" Dee turned to her. "Of what?" "Of Thuy causing trouble again, or people talking." He smiled, gently touching her hand. "No matter how hard it gets, I'll get through it, as long as you trust me." Huyen lowered her head, her lips curving slightly. A small smile, but so beautiful it made Dee's heart tighten. That afternoon, the 3 went to the river to bathe, like a ritual of release. Maya ran ahead, jumping and kicking up dust. She shouted, "I'm going in first," and dove in like a little fish. Day and Huyen stood on the stone steps, watching Maya splash and clap. The scene was like a painting. Sparkling water, wind through the reeds, birds calling across the river. Day sat down, scooped water, and splashed Huyen lightly. She startled, playfully swatted him. Maya yelled from the water, "Mommy and Daddy are fighting," and laughed hysterically. The 3 formed a small whirlpool of happiness, simple, rustic, but more real than anything they had ever known. Evening came. The wind grew stronger. Dark clouds gathered, just like when Huyen stood on the outcrop that morning and begged for everything to end today. And it did. A new chapter began. Back home, Huyen lit the stove for dinner. The fire flickered on her face, warm as the lamp lighting the way for the family. Day prepared bathwater for Maya and chopped extra firewood for the coming cold. Often, he stood watching Huyen from behind, the way she held the ladle, pushed back stray hair, tilted her head when Maya called. Everything made him realize he had never been this at peace. When dinner was ready, They sat around the tray again. Dee served Huyen a piece of braised fish. Huyen wiped Maya's mouth. A scene so ordinary it could be found in any home, but for them it was the fruit of storms they had weathered. Night fell. Maya slept soundly, clutching her little pillow. The house was quiet, only crickets chirping outside. Huyen stood on the porch, looking into the dark yard where moonlight filtered through the leaves. Dee stepped out, draping a jacket over her shoulders. "What do you think?" he asked. "About what?" "About us." Huyen turned, her eyes soft as water. "I think from today we start over." Dee took her hand, this time without hesitation or fear. "I promise the past stays behind. I only walk forward, with you and Maya." Huyen leaned her head on his shoulder. Moonlight fell over them, gentle as a thin veil. In that moment, there was no wind, no old memories, no one else. Only them, a family, a new beginning, a
Trong câu chuyện
long
cảm
road
động này,
ahead.
Huyền đoàn
And
tụ
whatever
với
the
đệ
future
sau nhiều
holds,
tháng xa cách.
tonight,
Mối dây liên kết của họ
everything was
được
complete.
củng cố bởi sự
This
vắng mặt
script
và
focuses
tình
on
yêu bền
building a
vững.
sustainable
Cùng nhau,
YouTube
họ
channel,
tập trung chăm sóc
starting
cô
with
gái
choosing the
Maya,
right
xây
niche
dựng một mái
based
ấm
on
an toàn
strengths,
và tràn đầy yêu thương.
personal experience,
Đồng
and
thời,
audience
hỗ trợ
demand.
Tử Vi, một cô gái trẻ
It
đang đối mặt
explains how
với
to
khó khăn.
craft engaging,
Những khoảnh khắc gia
long-form
đình
videos
chuẩn bị bữa ăn,
through storytelling,
dựng lên một cấu
strong
trúc cho
structure,
Maya
and practical
và chia sẻ
value,
tiếng cười,
while emphasizing the importance
phản
of
ánh tình
understanding
yêu sâu
what
sắc
viewers
và sự
truly
quan tâm
want.
lẫn nhau trong gia đình.
The
Tuy
script
nhiên,
also covers how
sự
to
bình yên của
optimize
họ gián
titles,
đoạn khi những kẻ xâm nhập
descriptions,
xuất hiện, tìm kiếm
thumbnails,
tử vi
and
và
watch
làm nổi
time
bật
to
sự mong manh
improve
và những nguy
recommendations.
hiểm mà họ phải đối mặt.
Additionally,
Những căng thẳng,
it
bất định,
highlights the role of
Huyền và Đệ lên kế
consistency,
hoạch cho một tương lai an
long-term
toàn hơn.
thinking,
Quyết
and
định trở về miền
continuous
Bắc để gần gũi
experimentation
hơn với
in
gia
channel
đình và mang
growth.
lại sự ổn
The
định cho
ultimate
Maya.
goal is
Qua
to
những
help
thử thách, mối
creators
đe dọa
develop a
và những
strong personal brand,
kết nối chân thành,
attract
câu chuyện
loyal
ca ngợi sức
viewers,
mạnh tình yêu,
and
gia đình
scale
và
their
sự tin
channel
tưởng trong công
steadily
việc,
and
tạo dựng hy
effectively.
vọng và an toàn.